and a little bit of the categories. But then I also wanted to talk about categories from um, the annual entry, because using this last annual open electronic competition, we used three judges from PSA, and for me, it was a lot more interesting hearing them versus some of the local people we've had, also versus judging in club. And PSA was like really tough on everybody, even me. I got destroyed this competition. So, and that's not what I'm complaining about, but um, it was more kind of making me see the evolution of judging again, because I think sometimes within the club we're getting kind of laxed, and I know we have the same judges all the time, and it's hard to get away. And I've been away for the last couple months, so I haven't seen what's going on. But within all this, I had Linda, and Linda's not going to be here tonight either. But Linda helped me put some things together just to talk about. And the last competition that I judged was um, the May electronic competition. So I haven't judged the last couple competitions, and we had 93 entries in that competition. We scored 97% of those images above average, which I think we have a great club. I've been to a lot of clubs around the world, not even in the U.S. I've been to clubs around the world, and I think we have a great club. But seeing any competition, that's like really high scoring. We scored three images average, and that's 100%. So, kind of what our judges are saying is everything that's entered in a competition, we have nothing that's even below average, which is questionable. And I'm not saying I want to beat up on people more, and I'm not saying we need to, you know, tear the club apart over judging. Um, I just think we need to, even as judges, myself. That's I told Ed's asked me to judge, and I kind of stepped back. I just kind of wanted to watch and see what's going on. So that's why I haven't judged. But I think we just need to reevaluate our judging things. And of course, Linda managed to throw that back onto me, saying, "Well, you need to do another judges program." And yes, I know. I wish I could do more than I do now, even though I feel like I try to do a lot. And I know a lot of people here do a lot. Ron's been active, and Clayton's been really active. Ron runs the clubs, and Doreen's helping with newsletters. So I know everybody's helping, and that's not anywhere where I'm getting at, and I don't want anyone to feel like that. I'm just over a judge's standpoint from, again, it was kind of from watching PSA, that kind of made me realize we're scared to talk and comment, I think. And that's always been a thing, even for me. It's like sometimes I see an image and I think it looks terrible, but I can't go, wow, this image is terrible. But at the same time, I'm still even a little bit scared to give it a 6 when truly our judging scale is 5 to 9. And I haven't seen a 5 in a decade. But we used to have 6s, and we just don't have that anymore. And I know with the way the world is going, it's like you really have to be careful what you say to anybody about anything. And I have a handful of people that call me all the time to complain about something, whether it's they said something silly about my image, or this scored really well somewhere else and it did bad here, and we need to get rid of the judge. I hear all the stuff all the time, so it's like it's not anything new to me. um, but once Linda and I put all these numbers together, it was like I was kind of shocked that you know from the whole standpoint that a whole 100% of entries can't really be that high. I mean, I think something that should judge that high would be something like the annual juried, where most all of us enter images that have done good throughout the year, and that would be a higher scoring show than just a normal competition. That's just thoughts. once again, I just want to, reevaluate some of the competitions and stuff, because overall competition I think is great. I think everybody's doing good, and I know everybody's happy with getting ribbons. That's the whole idea. You compete to get ribbons. You don't compete to lose. That would be absolute silliness. But does anybody have anything comment wise they want to say before I move on from that?
I'm glad my crappy images are scoring high.
No, and it's not always that. It's just, we should scale. We should judge on some kind of scale, and it doesn't have to be my scale. It doesn't have to be, Daryl's scale. It doesn't have to be the president of the club, whoever that is at this time. Not picking on Ron, just whoever that president might be. It just needs to be a scale that the judges kind of regroup on. So from that, I wanted to, yes, Ron, go ahead.
Well, in general, the times that I've judged, for the most part, if I think it's a fairly poor image, that's when I'm going to give a 7. I've occasionally seen an image that I thought was bad enough to be a 6, but the good images are going to get an 8 or above, and the fantastic ones are going to get 3 9s. But in general, I'm kind of using a 3 system, 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
If you need to go back and say, look, we need to routinely give some 5s and 6s, we got to rethink the whole process, because that's not where our current judges are.
Well, and that's why I said technically our judging scale is 5 to 9. 7 being the average, 8 is actually above average, 9 is perfect. So a 9 should be a perfect image. And I've done the same thing. I've said I have given 9s saying, hey, I know this has a flaw, and this part of it could be worked on, but I gave it a 9 because I see a lot of value in the other aspects, and it does have, maybe great impact that made me overlook that flaw. So, and that's what I'm talking about. So I'm not picking on anyone, because I think I have done the same thing. And it's kind of like if you sit with a group of people, pretty soon you start to act like them. Or if you sit with a group, you go out with a group of photographers, you start to shoot like them. And if you judge with a certain group of people, you're going to judge just like them. And I know there was a lot of complaints from some of the local photographers that we had come in, just from people that were working the room, complaining about, wow, we don't like what the girl said about certain images, or we don't like this guy that was complaining about cats. He doesn't like cats. But that's going to be a normal aspect of any competition or any kind of judging. But if we're going to be Nevada Camera Club that judges on this scale and on these values, I'm just saying we need to look back at that. And Ron, I'm doing the same thing as you. It's like I think we're all kind of doing the 3, the 7, 8, 9. It's if we like it, it's an 8. If we kind of don't like it, it's a 9. If we think it's fantastic, I'm sorry, 7. If we think it's fantastic, it's a 9. And that's kind of our latitude is kind of limited to that at this time. And again, I'm not complaining about any of the other judges, because I'm talking about myself as well.
3 7s in a couple of cases.
Yeah.
We were 3 7s and we had 3 9s, but there weren't a whole lot of either 3 7s or 3 9s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jerome?
Yes.
Hi. I am a new member, and I'm not sure if everyone participates. I'm not a board member or anything. Can I ask you a couple questions and let you know my impression of what I found out? Do you, as judges, have training in judging, or you are, because you're experienced, you are doing the judging?
We have a judging kind of class that I think I put together many years ago. So really, I'm about the only one that's done the judging classes. I know when I was first in the club, and this is late 90s,
Yeah.
there was a couple other people that did them, Bill Payne and Dennis Gershik, but I think I'm kind of the only one that's done it since. So, and again, that's kind of why I had said a minute ago, it's like we don't want to do it all my way, or we don't want to do it
Does
somebody else.
PSA have training in judging?
They don't really have anything that's training for judging. I've been to judging events at PPA and WPPI, which are a little bit bigger, more on the professional level organizations. But PSA doesn't really have anything that trains judges. They're kind of like us, and Nevada Camera Club is kind of molded after PSA. I know you're a member of PSA, correct?
I'm not, I used to be a direct member,
Okay,
but
not
I
current.
was member through the previous camera club.
Okay.
The camera club I came from had a full day training for judges. I took that about several years ago, but I decided for myself I will not participate in judging. But they have criteria. So if the judges follow the criteria, we don't have to worry about who is judging. Well, I don't like that judge. I mean, you always get that. But you can say, I am following these criteria. According to these criteria, my judging is like this. So, but I am wondering if you could have another training session, asking someone to do a few hours of training. I don't know. I'm just throwing at my ideas.
Yeah, no, that's good. And yes, and Linda Hicks brought up that I need to bring that back and do a couple classes and stuff. I think the last one we actually did it at general meeting last year. I don't know who all was here. I think Ron, you might have been there, yeah. And we just kind of did it as an open meeting, and we kind of brought people up, different people to kind of judge and comment and stuff like that. So a little more informal, but yes, I think maybe we need to do something again a little more formal if the club wants.
Is this only board members that participate? I'm sorry to jump in and cut into your conversation.
No, this here's Judge's Corner is something I put together several years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and this is open for everyone. We've even had a couple people that aren't club members, even though most people don't know unless you're a club member, because the Zoom only goes out to members. But I've had a couple other people that I've talked to and said, "Here, come visit our meeting." And yeah, so this is wide open. And there's Linda now. We were talking about you, so you heard us, huh?
Well, we unfortunately had dinner plans before you decided to do this, and so we were polite and went to the dinner and didn't say, "Oh gosh, we gotta hurry back," and we got back. So here we are, and Craig even showed up too.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Craig.
Okay, sorry, Anita. Were you done?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Okay, and then I thought I heard somebody else start to say something.
Yeah, that was me. I was going to say that in our competition rules document, it even has a section for Nevada Camera Club judging guidelines, which talks about the things that the judges are supposed to be looking for, or us as photographers are supposed to be looking at to see how our images are going to be judged. So there's information out there. I think, lately, with a few of the new judges that we've had, such as Doreen and Harry, I think that's good too. But the point of training, I think, is important also.
Yes, I agree. Linda sent me a bunch of pictures, and I asked for some, but once I got home and I got them all downloaded on my computer, for the life of me, I forgot everything I was thinking about them. But I'm going to talk.
Jerome,
Yes.
would it be possible next year, assuming that maybe the same people, same organization judges the electronic competition, would it be possible for us to witness that?
I think we discussed it when we recorded. Okay, we did record it, but it was recorded under the assumption that all the judges knew that was for us if we had any discrepancies to go back and watch the video. we would have to discuss with the judges ahead of time if we could record it and present it to everyone. I feel that having too many people try and watch it could possibly be disruptive at the time of the judging.
I think after the fact would be okay, that at least we could learn something by it.
Well, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about some things, because I know we've been back and forth with categories, at least the past few beginners groups we were doing, and with the PSA judges, they really moved a lot of stuff around, just thinking that things didn't fit certain categories, and it would be great to have their comments to display, because I don't remember all of them. I just remember a lot of things getting moved. Linda, I'm going to share my screen, but I might have to have you tell me which imagers, because they don't have names on them. They just have. Can everybody see this peacock picture?
Yeah.
Yep.
Be part of it.
Part of it, I'll go full screen. So I have two, and I don't know if Linda, do you know which one is Janice Phillips Peacock Vibrancy?
This one, I believe, is Alan Duff's, and the other one was Janice's.
So this one, this was entered in pets. And I think our big discussion with pets came from me judging something, saying that it didn't really feel like it belonged in the animals pets category. Now, under our description, it does. If this is, on a farm, it's not really constrained, but it's on a farm, it's my peacocks, we're saying, oh, it's a animals pets. The judges wanted it out from PSA because they think it's more of a creative. They think it was more of a kind of an abstract. And then it ended up staying in here. And it's something I got involved with going through the rules, because this was like only the second category we went to. So I kind of stressed a little bit more. Our members are looking at how we read the rules, not necessarily how PSA reads them. But technically, the people of us that are running the competition aren't supposed to get involved. We're just supposed to say, this is our rules. This is how we score. You guys pick what you think is best for the category. And I got a little bit involved. This ended up staying in, and it did get an honorable mention, but there was a couple other things they weren't crazy about, and they weren't crazy about any of these being in the animal pets category. And this, I don't even think is an animal pet. I don't think anybody has this anything contained. I think it just happened to be on their house, and then I think this one was the same way. Now, after I presented the argument of the very first one not getting thrown out, then they were kind of, I had talked to one of the judges afterward. He's like, well, we just kind of decided to leave everything in and score it how it was. So again, because I don't think this is animals pets, this ended up scoring pretty well. I forget, I don't have all the
This one best of category in animals and pets.
Okay, so this was the first place, yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, this is truly not an animal pet, and it should have been disqualified. And I didn't think about it till after I talked about the first one with the peacock, because literally they would have scored it how they wanted to, which is more of the animals pets. But because I got involved in the first thing, it kind of blew the whole category. And that's the way it goes. But I was trying to help our club as a club, and have the judges understand what was going on. So, and this does not even fit our description of animals pets for in the club.
It does now. Okay,
Yep.
and this is my image. This is Kim.
Yes.
The reason I put it in animals and pets that whole section of tree behind his tail in the upper right was replaced. And you can't do that in nature and wildlife.
Gotcha. Okay.
I have a comment. Many people own peacocks as pets.
Yes, sir.
And there's always the case of a wild animal in a urban or suburban setting where man-made objects are visible. And according to the nature wildlife strict way it's written, that's not allowed.
Correct.
If they were in a zoo,
Well,
wild
not
animal
just
in
in
a
a
zoo?
zoo, but say in a public, wild animal has wandered into a public area where there are
what would a,
public.
like a tiger in a zoo be? Animals and pets?
Well, yeah, we decided that anything that was contained, like a zoo contains their animals, that fits the animals pets category. A wild bird that has a band for tracking, or a wild wolf, wolves have collars like in Yellowstone. Those are wildlife because they're not contained by anybody. They're not contained in the park. They just live in the park. But the zoo is.
However, if you read the definition, excuse me, Ken, if
Go
you
ahead.
read the definition of nature and wildlife, if they're coming out of a bush and I removed some branches to make its face clear, it does not fit in that category.
Correct.
Because you've altered the honesty of the image.
Correct.
So where would you put? So if that doesn't, if that doesn't fit nature and wildlife category, then the only other categories available to us is unclassified or animals and pets, only now because of the description that's been changed. So in the future, then this type of image should be allowed in animals and pets, correct?
I think that's more of a discussion because I still disagree.
Okay,
But again, I'm not the voice of the Camera Club. I'm just an outside voice putting opinion in and talking about judging and images. So
Can we solely go by PSA rules? Sorry.
well, no, Nevada Camera Club was molded after PSA, and a lot of PSA values were implemented into our club, but we still run it with Nevada Camera Club rules. So we have our own guidelines and what's called the handbook and rules and regulations and everything that we've put together. So that's how it should be run. But I think that maybe needs to be a discussion for the e-board or voting on how it is. If the judges are going to complain, if judges aren't complaining, it shouldn't matter.
I'm sure we'd have judges who would look at this image in animals and pets, our local judges, and say, absolutely belongs there, based upon the definition that we have. So that happens in other categories as well, where we hear difference of opinions, where judges look at things differently. It's a very subjective sort of thing. And while we try to give the guidelines so that there will be some degree of uniformity, doesn't always happen.
Right. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And like I said, I got to jump around because I don't have all these in order. So
someone was detected at your front door camera.
is that somebody talking or is that TV?
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Okay.
Jerome, I have a question. So when the judges were given for the annual electronic, when these images were presented to the judges, were the judges all in one room? And was it explain to them that the Nevada Camera Club has certain criteria for these categories. And that's why they saw images that they felt were probably not accepted in that category, or they felt they didn't meet the needs of that category. So was that presented to them before they started judging, or were these images just sent to them and each one judged accordingly to what they felt was the right category for that image?
So they weren't in the same room, but we did it as a Zoom call,
Okay,
just like we do our electronic monthly. So all the judges were on at the same time, and yes, they were given all the categories and the category descriptions.
They had that in advance of the competition, and as they were viewing it, they saw what the category was, and it was followed by the definition on screen
okay.
before we started judging a category.
So even when we do local ones here, even like with the print, we had one or two that get moved, and it always happens. There's always one or two that get moved. I was just, I think we had 5 or 6 that got moved on this particular one, and that's kind of what made me want to talk about it a little bit more. This image here was in documentary for birds and sea lions. And let me go to another one. This is this Very Unwelcome Visitor?
Yes.
Yeah, so this one was also moved. So both of those were moved to wildlife because the judges felt that, yes, it's a documentation, but it's not a real document of like a newspaper story. So they felt it would score better in moving into the wildlife category, since there is a wildlife category. There's one more that is this Nature's Architect?
Yes.
Okay. So again, this is in documentary, and the judges felt that this is, yes, in our definition, this is a documentation of a bird building a nest. Yes, it fits our description. But this is a prime example of me saying this is not really documentary, where you would see documentary if you read a magazine, Time magazine, if you read a newspaper, this thing isn't in there. This is going to be in a wildlife magazine, or it might be in National Geographic, maybe as an editorial. But the judges moved this to Nature, and it won the best of category in Nature. So out of the other, 23 images were in there, it got moved and won the category. And that's kind of where I'm getting at, as far as, yes, I understand we're reading exactly what everything says in there, and we're trying to figure out how to manipulate it instead of just reading it and trying to engage in like a normal society, I guess, kind of look at things, which is not, I'm not trying to socialize everybody, but in a normal way to read the description. Hey, this classification is going to be for birds, and we put something in there that's a lion eating a bird. So, well, there's a bird in there. That's kind of the stretch I think we're trying to do sometimes, just and I know, once again, I'm famous for trying to enter in every category that I can to try and get a different award. So I don't fault that at all, but just I'm trying to help everybody do better in the categories they're entering, and to better place your images to score better and higher in the categories that you're entering, and the images that you're entering. So, and that's kind of why, this is a good example. I'm going to go back to documentary. I don't have any more documentaries though. This is, yeah, I don't have some of the art pictures are in there. Okay. We'll go back. Anything anybody wants to comment on any of these 3 pictures?
Well, I know that this one's mine, and I knew that they had moved it, And I put it in documentary because as a photographer, that's what I was documenting, this bird building a nest. And it's part of their mating ritual. So, you know, when you read, that's the hard part. When you read
I know.
the information that's given to you and you feel and you feel as a photographer consciously thinking this, I think this would fit this category because this is what I'm documenting, or this is what I feel is a documentary photo. And I don't fault the judges because I was on the fence with this as well. And, you know, and I'm sitting there going like, well, you know, if they moved it, it's no big deal. But I think we have to give credit to our photographers looking at the criteria and them consciously trying to make the right decision. And that was one of my concerns when we didn't have information under animals and pets. And people as myself or any photographer going like, well, if I manipulate a photo, it doesn't fit in nature and wildlife, would it fit in animals and pets? And then I have, as a wildlife photographer, I have a real hard time with birds. I know they're wildlife, but to me, wildlife represents these larger animals like elk and bears and wolves and elephants and tigers and lions. So when it comes to birds, that's kind of a fine line for me. And so is that something that the Camera Club should look at and say, we should have a different category for birds? And that way we don't have photographers trying to put birds and animals and pets, and then we have you as a judge, you know, going and saying it doesn't have a band on it, or making an assumption that, you know, this hawk is probably a trained hawk, or, you know, things like that, because then I feel like we're misguided in as a photographer as well as a judge.
Yeah.
Can I put my 2 cents in here, Jerome?
Yes, go ahead.
I like the annual competitions because they separate nature and wildlife. And I've always been an advocate of leaving it that way, but for whatever reason, when you guys set it up with the Camera Club, you combined them together. So anyway,
that was before me, but yes, I've actually had that same argument way back when I was a little youngster, going, you know, why is it separate out here, but it's the same in here? And I also liked when we used to have 4 outside competitions. So, but a couple other they've gone to the wayside just because we didn't have the manpower to run them. But that's a whole nother story again too.
anyway, and my picture on the documentary was the one of the polar bear sitting there with the walrus, and
Yeah.
it seemed like a good documentary picture. And another thing is, because you're sitting in a zodiac, it's not as sharp as you could be for sitting in a zodiac, but it's so documentary, they're not as critical of that, the sharpness on wildlife, as they would be in the wildlife category. So that was another reason I put it in there. So
yeah. Well, and I'm not faulting anybody for putting this stuff in there. I'm just trying to explain, because we've had this conversation at beginners groups a couple times, and now even though it's kind of hearsay because I'm telling you what someone else told me, but I'm just trying to relay other messages from other judges, and I thought about inviting John to this. I just didn't know if he had the time or would want to, get involved in that. Okay, let me see what else. Linda, I know I asked for a bunch of these, and then there's something called reflections.
That one we did not get permission to use.
Okay, so we don't have that one. So let me skip.
You can use it, it's mine. You can talk about it, Jerome, it's
Well,
fine.
Well, this one you gave
don't
us
think I have-
permission for, but there was another image called Reflections that we did not get
Oh.
permission to use. So Jerome didn't get that from me today.
All right,
Okay, what? Do we have the travel? So travel was another tough one.
I didn't give you anything in travel. I don't think I.
Okay, so
This-
then I'll just say that there's a couple things in travel. Same thing. A couple judges wanted it out, but they just threw it out. They didn't move it, and I'm not even going to say whose it was or anything. And yeah, they I'm trying to think back because I don't have pictures of them either. So I think it was just the. Oh, I remember one they said was staged, which, you know, a lot of travel shots are staged, especially if you go on these events. And I'm kind of against that because if you're not going to allow that, it needs to be let known ahead of time. There's a lot of competitions. You know, I do a lot of workshops, so I set up the lighting and I throw a model in there. Even the stuff we do at B&C Camera, and that gets entered into Nevada Camera Club all the time. But a lot of competitions don't allow that. Even a lot of clubs, they'll do photo shoots like Frank and Gary do, but they don't allow images from those events to be entered into competition. And it's kind of, if we were to argue the fact of advanced or masters, you need to do everything in that image, and in advanced, you can have somebody else print it or mat it or whatever. The same thing with the way they look at staged photos is you didn't set it up, so you know you're not allowed to enter that. PSA, so hearing that come from them was a little bit shocking, because I do events for PSA and those images get entered all the time. So for them to say this is a staged photo, it shouldn't be here, was kind of a shocker for me. But that's, you know, that's another story. So.
And in our defense, there were times that Jerome jumped in and said, under our rules, that is permissible, or I jumped in and said it when we were having the judging. But the three PSA judges looked at things through PSA colored eyeglasses.
Yeah.
We'll just put it that way.
Did we? So there was that one got moved. I think it was
This was one of your May competition images that you asked that I get permission to show.
yeah, and that's,
Intermediate animals and pets.
so this was animals, pets too, correct? I'm trying
Yes,
to.
correct.
I have the papers here. It's just hard for me to read them all. You go to animals, pets. So
It's one ugly duck.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was the title, isn't it?
Yep, ugly duck.
Ugly duck. And then we had Buster in the desert. And is this Tilly, Queen of the Desert?
I believe so.
Do you know what this one is?
Doreen can tell us that's hers.
Maureen?
oh, I can't remember, something. I don't remember the title, sunset bird or quacking bird, or I can't remember what
I think Quacken was in the title.
yeah.
Okay, but I don't. Oh, a quack. Here it is. A quacking good sunset.
There you go. Yep.
And then that was the annual. So the couple I really wanted to talk about, we didn't get, but I was just going to go through some of these because again, it's the same argument over and over again. This one here, you know, it and it's only my opinion again, is it's not an animal's pets because it looks like a wild duck. And actually this one does too. I mean, maybe this one somebody is holding and helping and bringing back to life because he does look like a mess there. But I think also
it's a domestic crossbreed.
okay, but also, you know, when you see these two compared to these two, you automatically, and maybe it's just me, maybe nobody else does, but you automatically kind of look at animals pets being what we're kind of normal used to seeing as an animal pet. The same thing that Craig just said a minute ago. What if it's a big lion in animals pets? If it's in a zoo and we can kind of, you know, figure that out, then I think that's a little bit different. But I understand that, you know, sometimes, you know, this possibly could be somebody's backyard.
Well, it is. It's part of it's part of a subdivision in Las Vegas. They have some localized that are fed ducks,
Yeah.
and this is one of them. And actually, they felt that this duck or this duck was released from an owner and put in one of the ponds. So to me, that fits animals and pets. It was actually a pet of someone, and it was sitting there. And that, and again, the theme to this is birds. Birds are the hardest part because they can be a hummingbird in your backyard, but I consider that to be a wildlife because it's not constrained, but it's fed domestically. You know, and so it's hard to judge, or I feel it's hard to judge birds or where to put them in which category.
Yeah.
Jerome, I'm
Because-
gonna point something out to you. Go to your CrossFox.
Go to my what?
It's Jerome.
Jerome's going to his CrossFox.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
Okay, that was in animals and pets.
right. Yeah, I
And,
understand that,
well,
but that could have
I
been
get-
in wildlife as well.
No, it couldn't have been because this was taken at Triple D, whatever the farm is. It wasn't
but
it
I
up
don't
in
know that.
Montana or whatever.
Right.
And we don't necessarily know that, but we
Right.
have to depend upon the veracity of the judge or the enter to say, this was not in a wildlife situation. So if I'm going to put this in, it needs to either be in animals and pets or in unclassified. Same way your duck does, Doreen, that is being fed by a subdivision and it's not something that's out in the wild. So as our judges, we need to depend upon the honesty of our competitors.
And that's exactly what I've been saying. You're pointing out everything that I've tried to say. And it's no fault of the judges because, like I said, the photographer themselves are trying to be as honest as they can. And they look at these categories, and especially in animals and pets. And that's why I felt my Mandarin duck would fit in animals and pet, because as a photographer, I knew where I took that. Now, I totally agree with Jerome on my other photo that he commented on one of my bird photos, which I took in Africa, and he was spot on. Yes, I totally agree with you that shouldn't have been put in animals and pets. I could have put it in nature and wildlife, or I could have put it in unclassified. But that's why we need criteria. That's why we need some definition for each of our categories that can help guide our photographers to be able to make the right decision or the best decision that they can in that category. And then as a judge needs to feel that the photographer has done their best to put it in that category and judge that photo accordingly, and not to make an assumption whether it has a band in it or could it be an animal that's been trained or anything like that. It should be based and judged on what you're seeing before you. And so to me, if I were the judge and I looked at this photo, that I would have thought it should have gone to wildlife. I would have moved it to wildlife because I had no idea that that was done on a farm or in a reserve or preserve or whatever.
But
So,
how would we,
yeah,
if since the photographer did take it on an animal farm, it can't go into wildlife.
that's correct. That's what I'm saying. So then there's an even playing field at that point in time between the judge and the photographer and saying, okay, I, as the judge, is going to look at this photo and trust that the photographer put it in the right category.
Right.
Yeah, that's
That's
all
what we're
I can
asking.
kind of say. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a great photo, Jerome.
Yeah, I love this photo. And when it came up the first time I saw it, I was like, wow.
I don't know how to get back out of my thing here. Okay. That was all I had for today. So anybody else have any closing comments?
So how do you feel it went?
I think it was an interesting discussion and probably needs to be discussed further. I don't think it's completely resolved yet, although, you know, I have a better understanding for sure.
The one thing I want to say is we really appreciate the PSA judges taking a look at these, and if they felt like it belonged in a category according to their criteria, that was up to them.
Correct. And that's why I said it's like we got involved in a couple of things, but we really shouldn't. That shouldn't be part of the judging process. But I did it because I'm involved in both groups and I've judged in both groups and I know how both groups look at things. And I just wanted to give them the realism of this isn't a PSA competition, it's a camera club, and we have a little bit different rules. But I think overall they did a great job. I think we had some good winners, and like I said, they crushed me. I got the boot big time.
So in the beginning of your conversation, you stated that judging has changed since, you know, over the last 3 years, even 4 years. Is it something that the Camera Club itself should go back and start relearning our categories or rethinking our categories based on the information that you're learning from PSA and their judging criteria? Is it something, I mean, it's not always bad to go back and revisit something and make it better. So do you feel that this is something that's necessary or needs to be done within the Camera Club so we can move forward and be able to participate in some of these judging, you know, competitions and feel like we're coming out ahead and not being in a deficit role?
Yes, I think, you know, like I said, it's been over a year since I did anything on the judging process. You know, the only thing we have for a class is what I put together many years ago, and we've kind of done the same thing. But I think we all, you know, the judge part of it, I think we all need to review everything once in a while, even if it's not presented to us. And I think the judges that are judging should be entering because they need to hear criticism as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't always enter, you know, the CrossFox got beat up for the sticks behind the head. And I knew that. It's been in other competitions, it gets the same comments, but I wanted to put it in here to see what our judges would say about it. And I will do that. I'll take a crappy picture or a phone picture and put it in there just so I get some feedback, and it makes the judges think. And you know, I've always done that. I've always been that way. So it's like, but I think that's good for the judges to to hear criticism on their work, to hear criticism on what they're judging, and to hear criticism on their comments. It's hard enough to comment without knowing anything, but then to at least get feedback on what you're saying, it helps all of us. Some of us are scared to hear it. Some of us don't like the critique we get on our images, but in the long run, I think it benefits everybody, because you'll go back later on, or you'll be shooting something later on, and I still in my head think, damn it, I remember when Rich Haynes bitched about this, my images, and that always sits with me. So I think it's always good to review and to hear.
I have one request of everyone. If you will please send me an email message, just reminding me that you were participating this evening. I'll give you all merit points for attending our Judges Corner tonight.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jerome.
Jerome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.